Hello YouTube. My last video regarding alternative sexuality was not received well. It was my aim in that video to humanize those who selected this path. Many will say that it selects them. It also was a refusal to embrace any authoritarian influence in the bedroom or relating to management of outside bedroom activities that fall under the umbrella of BDSM. Finally, it was exposure of how various authorities within our society capitalize on expanding their influence by attacking and diagnosing participants as mentally ill. One additional word regarding mental illness as it is related to BDSM. 1. I will never state, as a matter of fact, that there are not some very disturbed individuals within this group. You can go to sites like FetLife and Collar Me, play parties, national events, or public dungeons and collect evidence of this. I am willing to state, without evidence, that many groups, if examined, will yield troublous people, unhinged individuals, and miscreants. I have found no evidence this is inherent within BDSM due to some activities listed under the BDSM umbrella. It has the ability to attract these types. Real talk. Now, some say sexual deviances are usually consequences of behavior, if not cognition issues, and they level this statement directly at BDSM. This is what needs to be combated. Even if you disagree with BDSM, do understand we need to stop being so narrowly focused in our thinking. We are speaking of principles and the ability to apply critical thinking to what may appear to be unrelated issues depending on the mindset of the observer. Simply put, if we can sick the legal system and medical profession against you for what you do in the bedroom, then this process can also be applied in other areas of your life. 1. What is the procedure used in defining deviancy? 2. We cannot hide behind words like usually. This word is stressing something under normal conditions. This leads us to debate what is normality in sexual expression. Do we stay in the clinical lane or the social lane here? Words like cognition issues, as it applies to alternative sexuality, has always been subjected to bias via what one deems to be reciprocal relationship versus causation. Lastly, this makes it easy for professionals to introduce suffering into the lives of those which they are condemning. This mental laziness and failure to explore individuals versus making generalizations or applying other cognitive dissonances is something that can easily wreck an individual's life. If you are not casually throwing around sexual innuendos, then it becomes a boring topic for many. I acknowledge this. This is normally because it does not play up to the daydreams or steamy magazine fiction. It cannot be seen as entertainment. It may be seen as dangerous because it demands an honest exploration regarding the use of power in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom, depending upon what you're into. Dangerous because it illuminates that trust is mandatory and encourages you to compare the dynamics of vanilla sex to kinky sex. Especially in more extreme activities, we can see this being the case. Dangerous because it reveals the truth about the reciprocity of human interaction and the many forms it takes. Further exposing the hypocrisy that is common in the debate about sex work. Here I am not speaking of a professional setting. This does not dismiss the reality there is always a give and take, whether in a DS exchange, etc. There is always a currency used in physical exchanges, independent of the intimacy level you share with another. I encourage you to stop thinking of currency as solely expressed by typical symbols of commercialism. Dangerous also because it challenges myths about the type of individuals who explore such paths. What happens when you realize that someone you respect is kinky, yet your bias now has to struggle with conventional, biblical, or conservative views regarding sexuality? Often it is viewed as regressive or unhealthy, for it encourages exploration in uneven terrain where anxiety may dwell. Such activities as consensual sexual objectification, the use of pain, the addressing of submissive and dominant interactions, just to name a few, have been known to produce an uneasiness in conversation. We may find that it clashes with subjects regarding female equality, gender roles, sexism, or even things as racy as sexual historical constructs in sex. The ideas of tolerance, consent, privacy, negotiations regarding sexual needs and desires within various exchanges are normally trashed as a point of focus. So, since I enjoy pushing boundaries and not pampering ideas that deviates from the truth, I am here again addressing alternative sexuality. Outside of submission to religion, governmental sanctioned constructs, and personal hang-ups, why do we find ourselves in an unhealthy, sadistic, masochistic exchange regarding communication about alternative sex? From what I have observed, some use it like class or educational distinctions, a hierarchy that bestows justification to non-consensual flogging based on perceived worth. But is this all? Is there more to it than that? Is it likened to a nervous laugh, a response due to inaccurate tagging via misrepresentation of activity, or a way to hide the disgust of your own desires that one finds impossible to jail? Along with the last thought, is there some desire to humiliate as an interest in obtaining power? Don't worry, I won't even address master-slave relationships. This is especially troubling within America, where the pain of black slaves and the activity of white slave masters historically comes to mind. Now, after a conversation with a feminist, and no, I am not claiming her views are representative of others who are feminist. However, after a conversation with the feminist, I think part of the problem is the outsider to alternative sexual circles, that is, loses a sense of secure mental social bond. Secured mental social bond. Think of it like a tie to conventional structures like religion, which provides a code of behavior. This may bring them back mentally to their pent-up sexual feelings. Being that they may be ashamed to express them produces a lure to a sadistic mindset where they receive decompression by means of verbal violence. One common opposition I find to BDSM is the thought that it helps to increase promiscuous behavior, which to some is always an indicator of low self-esteem. This is, of course, incorrect. As strange as this may sound, I think those who are authoritarian and enjoy micromanaging find it objectionable for people, but especially women, to be perceived as being sexual. The challenge for men appears doubled when they are typecast as abusers or misogynists, especially if they claim a top, dominant, or master role. Another problem is that it is viewed as rebellious activity. Sexuality, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful arenas where one can be kept in line by the dictates of the status quo. So, when you investigate not only your sexuality, but kink, then you are potentially trouble for the establishment. When you present yourself as a nail that begs to be hammered down, it can be frightening to those who hold the hammer. The last opposition not commonly spoken about is the insistence of linking sex strictly to perceived romance. Some cringe at the acknowledgement of self-interest. This is especially true via kinky sexual pleasure. If there is no masochistic potential peeking about via the roads of devotion, sacrifice, and longing, then you are seen as refusing to play the game. Though I will admit that kink, in the hands of the careless, ruthless, and mentally unstable, is even more potentially harmful than vanilla encounters. So, metaphorically, if it is mixed with romance, it has the explosive power of a nuclear device. But I digress. My thought regarding why we find ourselves in an unhealthy communication regarding alternative sex is the payoff for moral posturing. The act of shaming establishes an isolating dynamic. By manipulating situations where shame can be dispensed, it solidifies another type of us versus them paradigm, where communication appears to bring closeness with the inside establishment. It is more effective if the shame is disguised in subtle language, as this helps to craft plausible deniability of intent. This is only one reason. What are your thoughts? Thank you for listening.